We've been telling you all afternoon about yet another AIG bonus scandal, this one new. Connecticut's Attorney General telling us live last hour on this program that he has received documents with some very disturbing information. He says that AIG execs got $218 million in bonuses, $53 million more than previously thought. So, look, let's bottom line it for you folks. Is it time to cut the leash on federal aid to the insurance giant? We're going straight to Congressman Thaddeus McCotter of Michigan, who joins us live on the Financial Services Committee. Congressman, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Let me ask you first and foremost, you voted against TARP, stimulus money going out there to institutions like AIG, but not all of it. There's still some money that hasn't been paid. So rather than going and taxing the bonuses, is it not an option to hold on to some of that money to get our money back?
That was clearly an option. Unfortunately, that was one of the avenues that was closed off with the Dodd Amendment, which, as you know, replaced the stripped-out Wyden Amendment that would have dealt with executive compensation at TARP recipients. So that is an option that we have to restore. We can do that by removing the Dodd Amendment rather than doing taxes. But as I've advocated, it is time to stop the bleeding. It is time to end AIG holding the American people hostage, holding us up for billions of dollars in the future. We are going to have to reassert the principle that the people are sovereign and that they will not be played for suckers.
What does it take to have that happen?
The Obama administration, according to published reports, had considered this avenue as early as February of this year. I think that is much better to do it now rather than wait for Mr. Bernanke at the Federal Reserve to unwind this over a period of 2 years. The government already owns, in fact, the sovereign American people through the government own 80% of AIG. What we need is a reprivatization, break it up, let the healthy parts survive, wall off the toxic assets, and deal with them.
President Obama has been out and about talking a lot about this, and he basically says don't quell the anger. In a sense, embrace it. In fact, he says let's channel it into something constructive. So this week, do you see anything constructive coming from this? Because we were also reported on this program, Congressman, that AIG wants to have a lawsuit, they've actually filed it, to get all these tax refunds, $300 million or more, which I guess may, in essence, pay back the taxpayers, but it could go into their pocket.
It is time for the President of the United States to channel constructively his constitutional responsibilities to govern the country. It is time for him to look at AIG and make the tough decision, as people such as Andrew Jackson or Theodore Roosevelt have done in the past, that something that believes it is bigger than the American people, a Frankenstein monster that again can hold us up for hostage and billions of dollars, has to be ended. It is time to also restore calm and order to not only the financial markets, but right now, importantly, to the political institutions of the United States. Then we just saw the United States Congress last week act like a backwater junta to cover its own political assets. What they have to do is be sober, reflective, and have a long, sustainable policy that the American people will support.
Congressman, we have to increase the confidence and the stability of the market here as well as globally, because this is a huge issue. But now that in essence, the government owns 80% of AIG, can we afford not to channel that money in? If it fails, do we get hurt in a bigger way than we would have if we hadn't messed with it in the first place?
We very well could, Jamie. But again, the reality is we are not only at a financial crisis, we are at a constitutional crisis where, again, we hear presidents of the United States, both President Bush and President Obama, say that this company is so important that we cannot deal with it in a fair way to the American people. I think that is fundamentally mistaken. It will continue the policy drift that we have seen. It will continue the bleeding of the taxpayers, and this will leave us far worse off in the future than we would be if we acted today.
I almost hate to bring this up, but I feel obligated to. Do you see on the horizon another stimulus package? You're from Michigan, a place that has been very hard hit in this economy, and so you may have some financial needs there. You'd like to see the government step in, but could other companies besides AIG get money from that? How do you balance the two?
Well, the stimulus bill, the last time I voted against it. I believe that with the Congressional Budget Office, what it said was it will do more harm than good in the long run. As you know, in Michigan, we in many ways have already gone through what the rest of the country is starting to experience, which is fundamental failure in many of institutions, financial institutions that we've seen. The credit crunch hits us first because we're a manufacturing state. The worst thing we can do is replace the housing bubble that has burst with a government bubble, because when that bursts, Jamie, what will be left?
Congressman Thaddeus McCotter, thank you so much for taking time for us today. We appreciate you taking the time and being here and explaining it so well.
Thank you.
And here's a special viewer